What's good, everybody? Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you guys are preparing physically, mentally, and spiritually for the dark times that are ahead of us. And I hope you guys are getting right with God and staying strong. Got some more important information to share with you guys today. And this is something that I've been talking about for a few months now. And I've been telling people and warning people that um, that eventually it's going to come to a point where their income's not going to be able to keep up with these rising prices of things, right? And a few months ago, I also made a video about hyperinflation. Uh, and I was talking about how people need to be getting ready because eventually it's going to come to a point where it's going to become very, very difficult to provide for your families. And that's another reason why I've also been saying and telling people to take advantage of the time that they have right now, because it's going to get tougher and tougher as time goes on. And of course, this is all by design, folks. This is all by design. You already know what the agenda is with this whole thing. But we have John Williams, an economist, now pretty much putting out a serious warning. And before I recorded this video, started recording this video, I saw the article off of Zero Hedge, and John Williams actually mentioned how the Fed has lost all control over inflation. So I'm going to get right into it, but take advantage of the time that you have right now, folks, and prepare as much as possible for everything that's coming, and just be prepared for anything, because they could flip the switch at any time. And it's even possible that this hyperinflation thing, it's even possible that it can happen even earlier than 2022. We don't really know when it's going to really start happening, but all we do know is that it's already worsening, though. You know, everybody's seeing the price increases. We're all seeing it already. I'm even seeing it on Amazon. But I'm definitely eventually gonna stop using their garbage anyways, for obvious reasons. But it says inflation and implosion, and this is a serious warning, and the article has some interesting information too. Um, but he puts out a very serious warning about this. It says hyperinflation in 2022. John Williams, economist John Williams, founder of the shadowstats.com, says the Federal Reserve has painted itself into such a tight corner with the economy, it really has only two choices. Williams says it comes down to inflation or implosion. What would happen to the financial system if the Fed stopped printing massive amounts of money for stimulus and debt service? Williams explains you could see financial implosion by preventing liquidity being put into the system. The system needs liquidity to function. Without that liquidity, you would see more of an economic implosion that you have already seen, or than you have already seen. In fact, I will contend that skipping over that. It says it also means we are not recovering quite as quickly. The Fed needs to keep the banking system afloat. They want to keep the economy afloat. All that requires is a tremendous influx of liquidity in these difficult times. So is the choice inflation or implosion? Williams says that's the choice, and I think we are going to have a combination of both of them. I think we are eventually headed into a hyperinflationary. So this is where it starts getting interesting and serious. His warning that he puts out. He says he thinks, and this is just his thoughts, but I really do believe without a doubt that we will see it too. Um, it's already worsening, but it says I think we are eventually headed into a hyperinflationary economic collapse. It's not that we haven't been in an economic collapse already. We are coming back some now. The Fed has been creating money at a pace that has never been seen before, and I totally agree with that. You are basically up 75% in money creation year over year. That is this is unprecedented. Normally, it might be up 1% or 2% year over year. The exploding money supply will lead to inflation, which is already worsening. I'm not saying we are going to get 75% inflation yet, but you are getting up to the 4% or 5% range, and you are soon going to be seeing 10% range year over year. The Fed has lost control of inflation. And folks, I've been saying this too, but when more people start realizing that they're not going to be able to feed their families because of these insane prices at these grocery stores, because folks, soon it's going to come to a point where you're going to have to be paying, probably, I'm not saying this is guaranteed, but probably, um, you know, 10 plus or 20 plus dollars just for a loaf of bread. And I know you could actually make bread by yourself, and that's even cheaper than actually buying store bought bread. But most people nowadays, they're too lazy to even do that anyway. So um, take advantage of the time that you have right now. Take advantage of sales that you see. You might be seeing sales at your local grocery store. Take advantage of those too, and get everything that you need before it's too late. Um, because as time goes on, it's going to get more difficult, and it's not going to get any better, folks. These people are literally, as we speak right now, are already preparing a bigger crisis. And the moment that you see famines on a wide scale as well, you can see, yeah, you can see price increases even worse than what they are right now, obviously. But I mean, it's going to get to a point where people are going to get very desperate and they're just going to start stealing. I made a video last year talking about how people are starting to shoplift um, because they can't afford to, get food and whatnot. Because millions of people, even right now, are going hungry in the U.S. They're just pretending that things are getting better, but it's really not. They don't tell you about that though. It goes on to say right now the shadowstat.com inflation rate is above 11%. That's if it were calculated the way it was before 1980, when the government started using accounting gimmicks to make inflation look less than it really is, which is what they're also doing even to this day. The shadowstats.com number cuts out all the accounting gimmicks and is the true inflation rate that most Americans are seeing right now, not the official 4.25 recently reported. It says Williams says the best way to fight inflation that is already here is to buy tangible assets, valuable things, definitely. Silver. I'm not no financial advisor, but put that fiat currency, folks. Put that fiat currency that's already losing its value as it is. Put that fiat currency onto valuable things that you're gonna need. Um, but of course, with things like silver, you could use that for barter. Um, but definitely always keep some cash on hand, because if the grid goes down, you're not going to be always be able to use your debit cards, folks. So it's always good to have cash on hand, and it's always good to have some silver on hand too. It says Williams says canned good is a tangible asset, and you can use it for barter if you have to. Physical gold and silver is the best way to protect your buying power over time. I agree with that. Yeah, gold is way too expensive, to be honest. I wouldn't invest in that myself, but I think personally, in my opinion, I think silver is better. Um, just because it's more easily affordable. Gold may be a bit expensive for most, but silver is still relatively cheap. Williams says everything is going to go up in price. It's already happening right now, folks. It says, when will the worst inflation be hitting America? Williams predicts, I'm looking down the road in early 2022, I meant to say. I'm looking for something close to a hyperinflationary circumstance and effectively a collapsed economy. And when that happens, folks, you can expect to see more chaos on a wide scale, because, like I said, more people are going to continue getting frustrated, and more people are going to realize that they're not going to be able to feed their families with these insane prices. And people are already being forced to put more money towards foods and just things that they need to be able to live, which is also making it more difficult for them to pay off their bills and whatnot. So get into the next article, but this is also serious. It says warning mortgages could see 56% increase if U.S. inflation scenario plays out. And of course, that's not good too. That's going to make it more difficult for people to pay off their mortgages. Um, Obviously, that's not a good thing. It says in the children's fairy tale Goldilocks on the Three Bears, Goldilocks encounters three bowls of porridge, and one that is too cold and one that is too hot, until, of course, she settles on one that is just right. As the world continues its long and challenging recovery from the you-know-what, the global economy and Goldilocks ironically have a great deal in common. Economies around the world must not be too cold, recessionary and deflationary, or too hot, inflationary. Um, Lest the major issues begin to swiftly arise. Going forward, the global economy faces the contractionary forces of struggling economies across the world, relatively anemic recoveries outside of nations that have been engaged in enormous levels of stimulus and declining demographics in most of the world's largest economies. At the same time, the ghost of inflation that scarred households in the 1970s and 1980s may have returned to haunt us once more. But how does all this impact house prices? Let me explain. It says demand outweighs supply as Western nations, most notably the United States, continue to pump trillions of dollars into into their economies. There is simply too much demand for goods and not enough supply. Um, and then it goes on to say that spending that normally goes towards things like travel, entertainment, and dining out is being redirected towards retail and other goods due to unprecedented increase in demand. Wait times for finished goods and raw materials have blown out to all-time highs according to some indexes. At the same time, supply chain disruptions, which are already happening too, and you guys already know what the World Economic Forum is supposed to be doing. And according to them, they said they're supposed to be doing the supply chain exercise on July 9th. But it's very possible that they could do it even earlier. It's already being attacked right now as we speak. But this supply chain thing, the whole thing relating to the this exercise and the Cyber Polygon 2021, this literally reminds me of Event 201. And I know they're both different, but with Event 201, you already know what they did and then what happened months later, right after they did that exercise. And now they're supposed to be doing a supply chain exercise basically in the summertime. And what do you think is going to happen months later after that, folks? If they really plan on doing it the same way um, that they did with Event 201, where they, did all the things like right after they did it, like months later. If they plan on doing something similar to that, you're going to see something very big in the months after. But I'm not setting any dates or anything, but just be prepared, folks, because they could flip the switch at any time. It says at the same time, supply chain disruptions and increased consumer demand has resulted in the prices paid by manufacturers in the U.S. rising at the fastest rate in over 40 years. As a result of these higher prices or higher costs, and supply chain issues, some large multinationals have already announced that they will be soon raising their prices. Housing prices are already going up too. Um, Most notably, Coca-Cola, which is not good for you anyways, and Procter and Gamble have both committed to raising prices according to the latest U.S. inflation figures. These forces may be starting to significantly impact the prices paid by American consumers. In April, U.S. Consumer price inflation rose by a whopping 0.8% for the month, marking the largest single month rise in U.S. inflation since 1981. That was last month, too. But it's still getting worse, like I said. Wall Street was extremely shocked by the magnitude of inflationary impulse for April, with the consensus estimates from analysts sitting around 0.2%. Even before the recent inflation figures rattled global markets, pressure was already building on the U.S. Federal Reserve to consider raising interest rates if inflation became a significant issue. Um, and of course, doing that, that's not good for people who are usually borrowing money. But yeah, I'm gonna leave the video off right there. You guys already know what the message is. I say it in every single video. Prepare as much as possible, because when this all goes down, folks, I don't know when they're gonna flip the switch, but whenever they do, it's not gonna be sweet. So prepare as much as possible, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Take advantage of the time that you have right now. Get everything that you need right now, folks, because it's gonna get tougher and tougher as time goes on. And you need to be prepared for this bigger crisis that they have planned out. Um, when these people tell you that the next pandemic is going to get attention, and I always bring up what Bill Gates says, because every time he makes some type of warning, it always comes true, and it always ends up happening sometime in the future. But when Bill Gates tells you that the next pandemic is going to get attention and that it's going to be 10 times worse, I've seen an article too where it talked about how he warned that the next pandemic could be 10 times worse. These people are not joking, folks. They know exactly what the plan is, and they know exactly how it's all going to play out because they have it planned out in advance. So prepare yourself as much as possible. Take advantage of the time that you have right now, and continue to get right with God. Continue to stay strong, and please share this video far and wide. This is some serious stuff, folks, and more people need to know about what's happening, and more people need to know about what's taking place. So I thank you guys for watching this video, and I'm out.